All right, Chiefs draft recap. Last year, if you watched my Chiefs draft recap, you saw me just completely buzzing over all of the draft picks. I was a massive fan, and they somehow exceeded my expectations and were even better than what I thought they would be. Even a couple of picks that I was like, could this work out? I don't know. Pacheco, is he just going to play special teams? Those guys hit too. It was an all-timer draft. Did they do it again? Are the Chiefs looking at back-to-back years of incredible drafting? Well, I don't think they did. I'm not as impressed at this draft as I was last draft. I'll certainly say that much. You look at the board, a lot of reaches early on. Just the board you see on the screen is the players they drafted, what position they play, where they were drafted. So for Felix, it was pick 31, and then where they rank on the consensus big board, which is 45. Not to say that if you draft someone before they're on the consensus big board, it's always a bad idea, but more often than not, if you draft a player at 10 that the consensus big board had at 50, more often than not, they play like a guy who should have been at 50 than a guy who should have been at 10. So, again, they drafted for need a little bit, which isn't always my favorite thing to do. You see this with, with our guy, Felix, the edge rusher they selected with the last pick of the first round. And he's someone who, there are things to like about him. I'm not going to sit here and necessarily completely hate on this trade. I think what's important to look at with him is I think he was much better in 2021 than in 2022, and he is just 21 years old. He's a very young prospect, so while I think that the production isn't quite there for me to feel great about drafting him in round one, there's reason to believe he could get better, and so I did not have him as a first rounder, but, 45 feels a lot more around where I would have had him personally, but I can understand the logic. And again, they're making sure that they go out and they, they're just making sure that they get someone who they feel like can fill a role for them and will be a player for them, and he will. Be a player for them. Certainly, he will fill a role. The question is, kind of maybe. High ceiling guy, but will he reach that ceiling is just, it's a question mark. Next up with pick 55, they got Rashee Rice, someone who, with a lot of smaller receivers, they got someone who at least has a little bit of height with him, with 60, he's 60. If he was 60 feet tall, that'd be great. 6 feet tall and 1 inch, Rashee Rice ran a 4.5 and had solid production at SMU, not like outstanding, but solid, and definitely showed flashes of brilliance there. Definitely had some great games and then some games where he kind of disappeared. So, a lot of times Chiefs go after really speedy receivers. Him running a 4.51, not bad at all, but not necessarily, electric either. So interested in exactly what kind of role they feel like they can use him with. But, the Chiefs, they love to get guys who can do several different things, and they just like to have a lot of different receivers who can come in and play. So, as my old expression goes, don't let a day two go by without drafting at least one receiver or safety. There you go, got your receiver, nicely done. Wayne Morris is a guy who, they reached on him a little bit. Again, these are now every one pick so far, and it's going to continue until we get to Coburn, pick 194. Every pick is a reach, what is at least in terms of the consensus big board. If you believe in a consensus big board, then it would be reaches across the board. Wayne Morris, picked at 92. I would have liked him more around 137. I would have, seemed like should be a solid depth offensive lineman right off the bat. Like, I don't think that there's concerns, and has had some great games in his career. So there's reason to like him. Definitely a bit of a one-year wonder. The only year he really got over 500 snaps was last year, and it was still just 580. So interested to see how exactly that will work. But that's where he is. You then have Chamari Connor, safety, safety out of Virginia Tech, who again does not have a ton of production here. Does run a 4.5, which for a safety, that's pretty good. You'll take that, 4.51, so low 4.5. Seems like he has the physical tools fine enough. Didn't have a ton of production, and again, was picked at 119, and he was projected to go at 242, and you look at his profile, and he looks more like a guy who should have gone at 242. So this is where, if it was a bad organization, I'd sit here and say, what the hell are you doing? What are you thinking? Why are you making this call? It's the Chiefs, so you have to go and look at it and say, well, It's possible they know something we don't. It's possible they see something here. But again, that typically isn't the way it works. Typically, when you draft a guy at 119 who is supposed to go 242, they look like a player who's supposed to go 242. We'll see if he's an exception, because there are exceptions. But I wouldn't chase the exceptions personally. BJ Thompson, who is an edge rusher, who I actually really like this pick a lot. I know that it's another reach, another significant reach. So maybe saying I like this pick a lot isn't the right word, but I like getting him as a player. He has very interesting, just very interesting profile. He's someone he's 6'6", 210 pounds at the edge position. So a lot of people, because of that skinniness, are just going to say, you know what, off our draft board. I like that the Chiefs are not, and I think that's probably why there's a difference in when they selected him and when the consensus would have selected him, because of the physical traits. But his pass rush analytics are as good as anyone's in this class. They really are. Run defense is a disaster, and you're not going to put him in there on first or second downs. He's a third down pass rush specialist. That's what you're drafting him to be. But for pick 166, it could totally work out. Could you have gotten him at 194? Potentially. But, that's what they decided to do. I think he could be an effective player. It's where things get weird, where it's like, I think it's a good player. Is it a good pick? Maybe. Keandre Coburn, the defensive tackle out of Texas, who is, again, someone who, hey, the one non-reach on this board, according to the consensus big board. Again, not everyone's cup of tea, not everyone cares about a consensus big board. I do, so I pay attention to it. Seems like he should just be like a solid defensive tackle. Seems like he should just come in and play solidly well. So for that reason, I don't really have a massive, I kind of like this pick. I think this is a good one. Should come in and play well, be good depth. Again, pick 194. How much does that move the needle? I don't know, but it could move it some. Then Nick Jones, a guy who, hey, they got a special teamer with their last pick last year. Now maybe another guy who I'm just assuming is going to come in to play special teams. Pick 250, 292 on the consensus, but I'm not going to freak out over the consensus at this point in the draft. 250, 292, whatever. Should come in and be, I would assume, should come in and just be a special teams guy. But you know what? I think that they got some other interesting players here. So, I'll be honest. Listen, you come here to hear my opinions on this stuff. I see what they were doing, and I think they kind of accomplished what they were trying to do. It's just not the way, not the route I would have taken personally. But again, I do think that they filled up some holes here, and this is, the argument of, do you draft for need or do you draft for want? They're in the middle of a championship window right now. That might be a very long one. Go out and just try to build for right now. Again, with the exception of the Chamari Connor pick, I really do understand every single one of these selections. I think every single one I can totally get. And again, just because I don't get the Connor pick doesn't mean that I think it's bad. I need to do more research on it before I can fully say it's good, because, again, it's the Chiefs. I give them the benefit of the doubt, but a couple head scratchers, but a couple picks I like as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Chiefs draft. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.